NHADCH 15.5.1 Interlude, the story of a certain star reading, Alfred POV. I strike my sword against my opponent's blade, but he repels it. A reverberating clank as it hits the ground. It all happens within a single moment. Back then, it had been a test in will and strength, the blades of our swords pressing against each other's. If I were to push forward with all my strength, I should win. At least that's how I pictured it. In terms of power, he's currently weaker than me, and his body was also much smaller than mine. But if I said that to him, his face would flush bright red from anger. He'd even try to twist my words around, and say it's me who was too big. Yet, he defended against my blows without break, not bothering to counterattack. A blink, and he parried my attack, lunging at my chest. It caught me off guard. And of course, he didn't let this opportunity slip. He thrust out a hand to grasp the handle of my sword, barely managing to take hold of the end of it, lightly twisting it in a peculiar way. This caused me to loosen my grip. With that, he tossed the sword away from me. As always, his fluid movements are beautiful enough to admire. But this is no time to stand there dazedly. Back in the present, I throw my body back in the blink of an eye. The moment I think I've gotten away, his sword stops a mere hairbreadth from my nose. Okay, that's enough. Owen wins. Perpetually yawning and nodding off, the sword instructor raises his hand to signal the end of the match. Cheers erupt from the trio that's always glued to my opponent's side, as well as from some of the students that often watch us from a distance. The local town's swordsmanship class sponsors a small tournament of sorts each month during the weekend, a simple match-up game against opponents of similar strength. The sword instructor determines who will fight against who after looking at the student's abilities. Ever since I've entered the school, my opponent is usually, no, I've always had the same opponent. Since no one there besides me can put up a fight with him in the sword. It seems like my opponent practices the sword under a hired tutor, someone from the capital. Although my opponent looks soft and calm, in reality he is a pretty aggressive guy who refuses to lose. Because of that, he is very diligent when it comes to practice. And since he is especially trained in the sword, his skill can no longer be compared with that of anyone in the local school. This I know all too well, yet the consecutive defeats are too vexing, even for me. Breaking his winning streak is my current goal. In order to do this, I sometimes ask a local school teacher for guidance. That teacher is like me, someone who came from a faraway place. Perhaps because he has fought in real battles multiple times, his teaching methods are much rougher than those of the local school teacher who graduated from the Knight Academy. That said, his methods of teaching are suitable in a battle setting, granting me a higher chance of winning a fight. In a real battlefield, the enemy definitely will not fight us in a polite and courteous manner. That is a matter of course. My thoughts enter different waters. Although this instructor is actually quite the flirt sometimes, he really does take good care of me. Even after I've graduated, he still flirts, wholeheartedly teaches me. Therefore, I'm very grateful to him. That doesn't make him any less of a flirt, though. After every loss, I visit him for feedback. He'd give me guidance, albeit with a flirt here and there. Then I'd enter a match with my opponent only to lose again. It's like a never-ending cycle. My opponent and I have never had another student as our practice partner. His soft ice blue eyes curve in happiness and he slightly and proudly tilts his chin up at me. Such a shame, Alfred. I win again, says Leanne, basking in his joy. Even though it seemed like you had a chance in defeating me, in reality the gap between our strengths is still large. A sigh escapes my lips. I also thought I was going to win our match. I wonder why. He is weaker, thinner, and shorter than me, but I'm still unable to win against him. Even though I'm able to put up a good fight, I'm still. I already told you, stop relying on that stupid strength of yours. Don't keep charging at me right away. Don't you know? I listened to Leon's lecture in silence. He always does this after a fight. Always lectures at me like a teacher, pointing out my flaws. It's a bit frustrating, but he's not wrong. Plus, he's doing this for my own good. Hey, you. Are you really listening to me? Why I can't win? Why can't I win when you're not stronger than me and your body is so small? As soon as these words leave my mouth, Leon's face flushes. Wah. I'm not small. This is normal. Don't say something so rude. You are the one who's too big. Give me your height. His reply is so unreasonable, and he even sputtered it. That's impossible, though. UGHH. Why you talk to Mew? Lian's 3 groupies rushed to our side. Lian Sama. You did a good job. Lian Sama. Really, you're so awesome. Lian Sama. That was very, very beautiful. Noticing him, Lian closes his mouth and shoots his gaze back at me. His face is still red. Or anyway, exert more of an effort, okay. I got it, I say obediently. Convinced, Lian nods and approaches the trio. As I observe Lian's departing figure, I catch sight of his still flushed cheeks and glistening eyes. His quivering thin eyebrows the color of spun silver. I want to touch him again. Just like that night. Whenever he talks to me, the desire to touch him is heavy and relentless. I get impatient, but I can easily imagine if I do run my fingers over his skin, he will most likely, no, he will definitely be angry again. So I restrain my urges. If I embrace him, he may not want to talk to me for a while. For this reason, I must wait until his anger and vigilance have settled down first. It's necessary, but truly hard. I sigh once more. That night, I was able to touch him as much as I wanted. As I kissed and touched him, he narrowed his eyes and laughed, his cheeks flushed red. His tear-streaked cheeks coupled with his damp silver eyelashes made him appear like a pitiful child. But as light reflected upon him, he seemed breathtaking. Unfortunately, after that, Lian immediately lost consciousness. And the next morning, when I tried to touch him again, he ran away in a huff. To put it simply, he reverted to his usual self. I don't know what happened to Lian those days when I wasn't around, but it seems like I'm involved in it. He was crying alone in my room, trembling like a young child. Gaze locked upon my form, he begged me to bring him along. To not leave him. To stay together with him. All while crying and desperately clinging to me. Like a child, he had cried from loneliness. Even now, I still don't know what the catalyst was. I've asked him several times, but for some reason he keeps his mouth shut. I wonder why. His life is enviable, a life without any inconvenience, a guaranteed secure future, as well as a complete family. So why is he feeling so lonely to the point of crying and begging like that? For Lian, there shouldn't be even a slight shadow of loneliness inside him. That's if he is the real Lian. Whenever my thoughts run in this direction, I can't help but laugh. This is really too ridiculous. How could that possibly be true? In front of me is Lian. There is no one else that could be Lian. There is no way that I'm wrong. But somehow, although such thoughts spur on my laughter, I also can't help but recall the words of the stargazer back at Fotal Village. I didn't ask for her service. Out of her own volition, this woman whose origins I knew not stared at me and gave me a star reading. One that, to this day, I have yet to understand completely. In her own words, there is a small star that the grieving goddess sent from another distant dimension to accompany me. I have no clue what she means by that. She didn't specify who the star referred to. She also didn't elaborate. Her words were too simple and vague to the point where I couldn't determine whether she was being literal or metaphorical. Or if they even had a meaning at all. Maybe she strung up some words to sound profound. Like the old fortune teller standing by a dim hearth, asking those who pass by for money after spouting some nonsense. But since she didn't ask for money, that woman might not be that sort of person. Her words had merely functioned as those of an anonymous passerby, their fate to be thrown into the back of one's mind at any time. Therefore, I don't have to think too deeply about her words. And yet, that profound, unintelligible, and ambiguous string of words remains in my mind. The woman had worn a black robe torn in various places, face enshrouded by the depths of her hood. She carried an old and jet-black wooden wand that had seen better days, various unfamiliar measuring tools, a few used and discolored books, and a bundle of paper. Her age was a mystery to me. In fact, I know almost nothing of her, be it her birthplace or anything else. Her hair was long and black, eyes dark as a starless sky, both of which were rare in this region. And her skin was as white as porcelain. Only her lips held a bit of color, being slightly red. She's just like me. The colors of her hair and eyes were rare, deemed as strange in this country where the norm was brown for both. Perhaps she had covered her face with a large hood to hide those unique features. And even though she had hid her features as best she could, sometimes they could still be seen. In those instances, the passing villagers would give a sidelong glance. However, her features complemented her beauty, making her look like doll-like, causing others to second-guess themselves whether she was actually human. To say her beauty felt foreign and otherworldly would be fact. That woman said she was researching the stars using her star-reading techniques. She traveled the world by foot, recording the stars' arrangement, predicting where the stars might move. After determining the meaning behind the stars' movements, she'd know where to go next. In her words, all of God's creations, including me and even the demons we feared so much, were split from fragments of the stars. One day, they would return whole again. It is said that all stars traveled in a circle, changing direction and fortune without end. Again and again. After saying that, the woman stared me straight in the eye. And for some reason, a thin smile had slid its way across her lips. That star reader's words remain with me to this day, emblazoned in my mind. NHADCH 15.5.2. I close my eyes, recalling the events that led up to my bizarre conversation with the stargazing traveler. Or rather, her one-sided conversation with me. After I returned home from my part-time job and took a bath, I still had several hours before bedtime. I used that free time to complete my other part-time job, the one Leanne had entrusted to me. Be it resting on a chair, laying on the bed, or while reading a book, I multitasked by charging his magic crystals. This much should be enough for today. Leaning on the chair, I stretched my body. In my opinion, I had sat there for way too long. As I rubbed my shoulder, I glanced at the pile of blood orange magic crystals on my desk. I attempted to lift the bag that I had placed beside the desk. Judging by the weight, there's probably only half a bag to go through. Leanne had asked me to infuse my magic power inside these transparent stones, known as magic origin stones. All before spring break began. Since he had wanted me to deliver the crystals once I finished, I'd probably do that soon, since I already finished half of them anyway. With the public bar where I worked part-time on Saturday nights temporarily closed, I clocked out of my construction work shift in the evening. That way, I could return to the church before sunset. Leanne should still be at the church then. I could pass the magic stones to him there. This year's spring break was a pretty busy time for me. Well, it's not like I could afford to take a break, though. Either way, I still had to accompany Cheddar-san, my boss from my part-time job at a ranch, and his wife to Fothel village a mountain away. Before spring break started, Cheddar-san's uncle and his wife had traveled far to Lay's village. Their purpose, to ask Cheddar-san for some livestock after losing much of their own from an epidemic. Cheddar-san and his wife were very kind. Sympathizing with their relatives' misfortune, they decided to send 8 cows and 2 horses to their relatives' village. The relatives offered to help, but Cheddar-san and his wife gently refused them. His cousin's back wasn't what it used to be, and it'd be a lie to say his cousin's wife was healthy. So I agreed with Cheddar-san's decision. It'd be meaningless if his relatives suddenly collapsed on the journey home after all the help he gave them. Additionally, Cheddar-san and his wife had asked if I would accompany them on the journey. A higher wage would be provided than usual if I agreed to this task. He said he would also cover my meals and accommodation, as well as insurance. For a long trip like this, it was better to be safe than sorry. They gave me until next week's shift to think it over, in case I might already have other plans. Which was unnecessary, since I accepted the job on the same day. Of course I'd like the extra money, but the main reason I accepted the job was due to Cheddar-san and his wife's great care of me. They'd invite me to dinner once I ended my shift, gave me clothes that, in their words, were from overshopping at sales. And sometimes, his wife would give me some of her homemade confectionaries. Moreover, during their monthly day of prayer at the church, they would occasionally do a bit of handiwork, a bit of repairing here and there. They were truly kind-hearted people. Besides, it would be difficult for 2 people to take care of so much livestock, not to mention the chance of dangerous demons lurking in the mountains. While some areas were equipped with demon-repelling technology, there were also areas that were not. There was nothing absolute in the world. Although the journey would take several days, spring break had just started. And it was a long one too. The timing was great. There's no reason to refuse them. If my memory served correct, apart from the potential danger of wandering demons, the other obstacle was the large mountain separating Lay's village from Fothel village. Jagged at the sides, the mountain was littered with large, loose rocks, the occasional tree sprouting from the dirt. It's such a hostile environment, so difficult to traverse, that we would have to rely on a detour instead of cutting straight through. A detour that would add at least 3 days to the trip if our pace was quick. And that's if we were only traveling by ourselves. Traveling with livestock would take twice as long. With all this in mind, the round trip would approximately take 2 weeks. Come dinner time, I met with Leanne. And when I told him the details of my trip, he acted just like I had predicted. He panicked, the flip to his worrywart mode switching on. Leanne's probably unaware of it. How despite his words of denial, his face would pale, his hands shoving whatever items he thought was of use into my hands. Amulets, medicine, food, among other things. When that happened, I'd be the one in distress. I quickly tried to salvage the situation, reassuring him that I'd be fine. That I'd be back in 2 weeks. Once he heard these words, Leanne finally calmed down. Then he decided to return home and I made to see him off to the gate. This journey would mark my first time away from Leanne for more than a few days. We met at school every day, and the weekend as well if time allowed it. You could say there weren't many days in which we'd be apart. It's hard to explain how I'd feel in not seeing him for so long. If I were to really consider it, then I guess the closest emotion would be sadness. Either way, a negative emotion. On the way to the gate, Leanne let Marie and the kids know he was going home. And then, I suddenly remembered something called a blessing. There's a custom passed down from long ago in which one would give said blessing to a person about to leave, in hopes of the latter's safe journey. My mother used to give one to my father prior to him setting off for work. Marie also gave one to a child leaving the church for the last time, having been adopted. Or, to one of her close friends as they left the village. What was a blessing? To put it simply, a gesture of praying for safety for person traveling far away. In other words, it was just superstition. But, for the person who waited for the other's safe return, it served as mental support. That if they waited patiently, that person would surely return home. Similarly, it provided peace of mind to the person who left. That no matter how far they went, there would be a place to return and someone thinking about their well-being. An affirmation of trust towards each other, making both sides feel at ease. No matter how it's put, however, it was just a flimsy promise, and couldn't be called a ritual. Even so, if Leanne was willing to do so with me, my heart would feel much lighter and he would surely feel relieved. That was what I believed. Problem was, Leanne was the type of person who'd run through his emotions in a flash upon a slight touch, becoming shy then angry, then finally doing his best to run away. Still, I couldn't help but want a blessing from him. So I asked for one anyway. As expected, he flushed in anger, not holding back as he scolded me. But just as I was about to give up, he suddenly came back to my side, cheeks still red. And he gave me a blessing. Joy coursing through my veins, I kissed him without realizing. Naturally, this brought back his scolding. But that was of lesser significance. Leanne gave me a blessing. This only meant one thing. That he was praying for my safe travel, waiting for my return. Since he would wait for me here, this meant this place was a place I could call my home. That's right. I should just call this place my home. There's a huge difference between my current self and the me in the past who had no place to return. No longer did I have to search for that vague place of my dreams, which might or might not exist. I'd finally found what I had been searching for. The rush of joy suddenly returns. I had the urge to run, to keep running until I was left with a tired but satisfied feeling. I wanted to hug Leanne. To throw my arms around him and never let him go. But if I did that, Leanne would likely, no, certainly fly into a rage. Somehow, I managed to restrain myself. Perhaps I was able to achieve such a miraculous feat due to the blessing. Flash forward to the actual journey. Fortunately, we only encountered demons once. Not to mention, the enemies weren't that much of a threat, and Cheddar-san and his wife easily repelled them on their own. Although the weather in the mountains was supposedly unpredictable, it had been mild from the start. We didn't lose any of the livestock, and none of us got injured. Basically, we arrived at Fothel village without any incident. At the village entrance waited Cheddar-san's uncle and his wife. After confirming our identities, they rushed toward us, welcoming us with tears of joy. Cheddar-san's uncle was named Palm. He and his wife guided us to their ranch. My escort job finished as soon as we delivered the livestock. Now I just needed to return to Lei's village. Back to Leon's side. Before that could happen, however, Cheddar-san and his wife wanted to repair Palm-san's decrepit ranch. And I lent him a hand. Since I would receive a bonus for my aid and had adjusted the schedules of my other part-time jobs to start after spring break, spending a bit more time here shouldn't be an issue. Many kids my age were looking for a job. Employers could fire me at any time if I were to showcase poor work ethic. Thus, our stay at Fothel Village extended by 2 to 3 days. Come evening, the wives of Cheddar-san and Palm-san brought me to the market. They had me carry the bags as they dragged me from one shop to the next. Carrying bags in both hands as I waited for the women, I observed the busy-looking people passing by. At the end of the road, a bit of a ways from the crowded market, stood a woman with jet black hair. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of me. She's a foreigner. Black hair paired with black eyes. These features were rare in this country. Her fashion sense was also peculiar, a black robe with a black cane. She slipped through the gaps in the crowd like a shadow. Despite her distinctive act of teleportation and appearance, she somehow blended into her surroundings without feeling out of place. An unusual traveler who was also a foreigner. Before she had passed me completely, she stopped. She turned her head in my direction. Those dark eyes seemed to suck everything into its gaze. Did she notice how I looked at her? As if she was some sort of rare item. A wave of awkwardness crashed into me, inwardly panicked. All of a sudden, the woman narrowed her eyes. She lifted her lips into the shape of a crescent moon. Oh my, oh my. Well, this is indeed a very strange thing you're holding, young man. Within you seems to be a mnemonic star. That surprised me. This was my first time meeting her. I didn't even know her name. Who was she? As I stayed silent, the woman slowly approached me. A strong star mania whose numbers in this world can be counted on one hand. To think that I can see it again with these eyes, what a happy yet strange circumstance. Ha! Fufu, the mnemonic star, is a powerful star, a king who suppresses everyone and stands on his own, said the woman joyfully, as if she were singing a song. It seems like you were born under that star. There is a bright future promised to you. However, you will also carry a pitiful, deep karma. I blankly stared at the woman. I could not comprehend her words. Mnemonic star, powerful star, deep karma. What? This star attracts other stars, said the woman, ignoring my question. The stronger its gravitation, the more stars that will gather beside it. But even so, this star is also wild, a star mania, emitting its own light and breathing its own fire. The stronger its light and fire, the stronger the fear. Although it is human nature to wish for its light, fear from getting burned and annihilated exists. Therefore, no one would attempt to get close to this star's side. Even the white morning star of compassion, which has the power to pair with it, will fear it. She shot me a sympathetic look. From the very start of her monologue, I had not understood what she said. What did she intend to do by talking to me? Irritation growing, I scowled at her. Yet she showed no sign of leaving. Her smile did turn a shade cold, however. Mnemonic star, the star that shines the brightest among the rest. A strong star mania that attracts many stars, and can even manipulate its orbit with its own will. Even the fate of the stars that it has attracted can be altered, and they will be forced to follow around it, the ruling king of the stars. But at the price of accumulating numerous followers, this ruling star must carry a heavy karma. Heavy karma. She narrowed her eyes, and raised the corners of her red lips. Yes. In other words, an eternity of loneliness. NHADCH 15.5.3. Everyone will feel a deep envy towards you, the brightest star. Eternal loneliness will await you, will follow you until the end of your days. Oh, the torment. How horrible. How pitiful. Despite these words, she chuckled, shoulders shaking. Then, she gripped her strangely twisted black cane, and lowered her eyes as she made a praying gesture. The jet black pupils peeking from her narrowed eyes were dim. Hazy. It were as if her soul had been transported to some distant place. Ah, what a truly horrible fate. Within 2 years, your karma will be set ablaze, burning and taking everything away from you. Of course, it will depend on your willpower. If you can endure it, then you will achieve supreme glory. You? What are you saying? I couldn't help but take a step forward. Her words were becoming unbearable for me. Yet the woman didn't so much as flinch. Her grip on her cane grew all the more forceful, words so soft and barely enunciated that I would have just missed them if I weren't standing so close. Oh my. How is this? Prior to this, she had been expressionless, as if stuck in between reality and dream. Now she furrowed her brows. After a while, the creases among her brows disappeared, and instead, her lips curved into a large smile. Hee. Oh, how surprising. This is the first time I've seen this. It looks like you will change the future of your star. What? The goddess was filled with deep lament after trying yet failing to change your fate repeatedly. No, it should be this world's fate. This time, it seems she placed another star by your side. A star. This is somewhat unusual. That little star was summoned from another distant universe. A small shooting star. Shooting star. Hee. It's quite interesting. The goddess threw in this little star into your life to accompany you, to illuminate your dark path. What a kind thing to do. The woman lifted her gaze. Stared me straight in the eye. She once more appeared as if she were deep within a dream. But then, for the first time since we met, she gave me a gentle and affectionate smile. That little star thinks about your loneliness, afraid that you will be burned by your own flames. For this reason, it stays close to your side, and orbits around you. Such a gentle star. For some reason, Lian came to mind. That boy is gentle, too gentle. I seriously worried for him. Because that little shooting star came from another universe, my star reading can't discern its origins nor its destiny. Even so, I can still read this. That star is a star that doesn't revolve. A star that doesn't revolve. The stars in this universe will continuously revolve forever and ever. However, because that shooting star came from another place, it is something that shouldn't exist, the only star in this universe that won't ever revolve. Therefore, once it leaves this universe, you won't be able to find it again. So please be careful. If you don't want to lose this gentle little star, don't let it burn out. Cherish it. Was she finally done? I wondered. Proof seemed to arrive in the form of the woman lowering the tip of her cane to the ground, bowing her lead wordlessly. But it seemed I was too quick to celebrate. Thank you very much for this very unusual star reading. I will stop here. Please forgive my rudeness. I sincerely hope that you will overcome that trial that awaits you in 2 years, and heal from your loneliness and grief. The woman smiled once more, and slowly blended into the crowd. My mind was in a daze for a while. Once I came to my senses, I immediately chased after that woman. I searched the whole market, but in the end, I couldn't find even a shadow of her. Asterisk. Saturday. The bell rings, signaling the end of my shift. I rush to tidy up and bid goodbye to the construction chief as I dash from the construction site, continuing my sprint all the way to the carriage station. I forcefully stop the stagecoach from departing, and hop inside. If I rush back home now, Lian should still be at the church. Once I'm at the Lays village station, I sprint to the church, determination fueling my every step. As I run, I can faintly hear a bell ringing. I direct my gaze toward the sound. Cutting through a line of trees is a stone structure towering over the green. It's the Owen family's clock tower, located on the highest hill in the village. The previous feudal lord specifically hired a famous engineer from the royal capital to construct a bell, one that sounded exactly the same as that of the capital's clock tower. It was to comfort his beloved wife who had grown up there. The engineer's skills truly matched his reputation. For over 100 years, the bell and clock tower has not once been put out of operation. I study the tower. I can't see the numbers on the clock, but I know that the hour hand is currently positioned at 4. I'm glad I rushed home. I will definitely make it in time. Sure enough, the sky above has yet to grow orange when I reach the church. The kids should be finishing the dinner now. Lian should still be there as well. It's as I have predicted. The kids are clearing the dishes the moment I enter the dining room. Ah, Alni-chan. Welcome home. You're Wimmer. The kids rushed around me. I'm home, I say, stroking their heads. Where's Lian? Is he still here? Lian-sama. He is still here. Lian-sama's here. Yeah, where? Lian-shama is cleaning plates with Marie Shama. Siween. Doubting my ears, I turn to the kitchen. Like what the kids said, Lian is washing the dishes with Marie in matching aprons, chatting happily. Marie notices me first. She smiles, cheeks reminiscent of apples. Shortly after, Lian also notices me and places the washed bowl and plates into the basket next to him. Oh, it's Al. Welcome home. Aren't you fast today? Welcome home. You're quite early. Yeah, I'm home. Of course I won't mention that I sprinted all the way back home from the station. What are you doing? Why, you can tell just by looking. Okay. Since I ate dinner here, I helped Marie-sama wash the dishes as a thank you. I told him that he didn't have to fuss about it, but he helped anyway. Lian-sama is really good at washing dishes too. Marie-sama. Lian blushes from head to toe. Then he rips the apron from his body, folding it on the side table with care. I fight the urge to burst into laughter. His act of keeping up appearances while blushing hard is too hilarious. Then, I should get going. Wait, I'll give you half of the stones. I've already finished charging 'em. Are you kidding? Why, you've finished that much? Yeah, they're amazing, says Lian, staring at me in astonishment. He completely forgot his embarrassment prior. I tell him to wait for me as I look for them in my room, but he insists on following along. One by one, he carefully places each blood orange stone into the bag as he counts it. Carefully, like the way he washed the dishes moments ago. Pale, thin fingers brushing the stones in a gentle manner. Marie praised his competence in washing dishes too. Watching Lian cleaning the plates with ease is somehow very nostalgic. He seems so accustomed to doing it that I can't believe it's his first time. This kind of job should have been left to his family's servants. There are 52 pieces. You're really amazing. You finished them in no time. I counted it correctly, right? He waves a hand near my face. Alfred. Why, yeah. As if sensing something strange with my weak response, Lian tilts his head while looking up at me. My silence causes his pale eyes to cloud with worry. Did something happen? You seem a little tired. Such kindness. Whenever I see this side of Lian, the words of that strange, black-haired woman replay in my head. Because that shooting star came from another place, it is something that shouldn't exist. That little star thinks about your loneliness, afraid that you will be burned by your own flames. For this reason, it stays close to your side, and orbits around you. Such a gentle star. The only star in this universe that won't ever evolve. Therefore, once it leaves this universe, you won't be able to find it again. So please be careful. Alfred, tell me the truth. What's going on with you? Did you deplete your magic power after charging these stones? I mean, you're the type that doesn't know when to stop. That might be the case. I slowly approach him, attempt to wrap my arms around his waist to pull him closer. Contrary to what I expected, he doesn't try to resist. Instead, he settles within my arms. Seems like he's too worried about the state of my magic power, so much that he doesn't notice my actions. When our lips are only centimeters apart, he finally comes to his senses and widens his eyes. Al, can you give me some? I press a light kiss to his lips to assess his response. Lian's face burns. He keeps on stuttering, his words full of and. Actually, my magic power wasn't depleted to the point where it would affect me adversely. The reason why I look tired is because I sprinted all the way back. Definitely won't mention it though. That said, I'm currently tired and hungry, so my magic power should be diminishing. So I'm not completely lying. Let's just leave it at that. I lean my forehead against his shoulder, pretending to lose my balance. It causes Lian to tremble in surprise. This is sneaky even for me, but I just really want to touch him. I want to touch him, to confirm his existence. Lowering his head, Lian grips my sleeve and breathes out a sigh. My ears catch a light groan from his lips. As I thought, we can't. Is he going to run away again? I lift my face and stare at him. He meets my gaze, cheeks still red. Then he furrows his brow as if in thought, before lowering his gaze in a fluster. After a while, he lifts his face once more. His expression somewhat hesitant. Are you that exhausted? Yeah. My head feels heavy. I'm also a little dizzy. I'm not lying. Seeing him fret over my condition that much to the point of considering intimate physical touch with me, makes me feel giddy. Dizzy. So my words were the truth. I understand. Not giving me a chance to even respond, Lian throws his arms around my neck, dragging my head down. Lian's face is so close to mine that our noses are practically touching. Gaze still lowered, he presses his soft and warm lips against mine. Upon contact, his tender magic gradually flows into me. Gently penetrates me. I can't believe he actually did it. I thought that he would say something like, "What are you saying, idiot?" and then back away, scolding me with a red face as usual. Yet he's actually sharing his magic power with me using the mucous membrane touch method he hates the most. I guess I made it seem like I wanted this specific method. Well, I also asked him for it in the past, so that might be where he got the idea. I personally admit that my measures are cunning, but I can't help it. I'll do anything for more of his touches. I pull his thinner body close, wrapping him in my embrace. Then I bit him. Hard. NNH. Lian jumps in surprise. He opens his mouth as if wanting to say something. I take the opportunity to slowly insert my tongue in between his lips to entangle our tongues together. His lips are soft and pleasant, his magic power warm and with a tinge of sweetness. So is the inside of his mouth. Although he squirms and trembles in my arms, he doesn't show a hint of wanting to flee. He looks pained, however, so I pull back a little. Lian wheezes. His shoulders and chest move up and down as he desperately tries to catch his breath. He was probably holding his breath as we kissed. I've told him time and time again to breathe through the nose, haven't I? He should just listen to me. Once his breathing settles, I bring my face closer. Can I have a little more? NGH. He surprises me once more by opening his lips in silence, lowering his gaze, and nodding. Not before raising his brows in anger with a red face, of course. Looks like he still isn't planning to escape. He stays in my arms obediently. Is this a yes? Well, let's just interpret it as so. As my lips brush against the corner of his, he jolts yet again. He glares at me. Why you? See, can't you do it normally, NNH? The moment I kiss him, his magic power trickles into me again. The flow is very unstable and sporadic, probably due to his agitation. Still, I'm happy that he's sharing it with me. On the other hand, I feel anxious over it. He's being too generous. It makes me feel as if everything that strange woman said will prove true. Lian always tries to lend a hand to those who seek help, even if he says otherwise. Like right now, even to someone like me. Lian is kind. Terribly so. To the point of giving everything he has. To the kids, Marie, me, and Saran. He should be popular. His life should be smooth sailing. And yet, it feels like he has loneliness etched deep inside his heart. Like that one night when he wept and clung to me. I faintly remember that day in which he suddenly had a 180-degree flip in his personality. And then, Lian told me to wait 2 years for him. The strange stargazer also mentioned a 2-year period, that my karma would scorch everything in that time. Why did Lian say 2 years? Is this just a coincidence? Who is the star the goddess sent into this world to help me? What is the purpose? A few suspicions come to mind. Is Lian aware of something, like the incoming disaster 2 years later? NHADCH 15.5.4. No way. He can't possibly know anything. After all, Lian doesn't have the ability to read the stars. But I'm not 100% sure either. Did he just casually say 2 years? Or did he say it because he knows something will happen then? If I ask him, I'll know the answer. Yet, I can't bring myself to. Regardless, I'm sure he'll just run away if I ask. Or even worse, disappear from my side forever. I can feel it in my gut. Waves of regret crash into my form. I should have taken that woman in Fothel village more seriously. Wanting to hear her star reading again, I scoured the streets of Fothel village for a hint of her, albeit to no success. The sense of gloom has yet to leave me. I neither have answers to my problems nor a clue as to what to do next. However, if you actually are the star orbiting around me, then you may have come from another world, sent by the goddess, or whatever. But I know this in my heart, I won't let what that stargazing woman said become reality. I absolutely won't let you burn out. I won't lose sight of you. I feel reluctant to part with him, but I have to pull back soon. If I receive any more magic power than this, Lian may collapse again. After pulling back, I bury my face in the crook of his shoulders. I hug him tight. Lian stiffens in surprise, as if he is asking why I suddenly cancelled the magic force transfer. Alfred, do you believe in star readings? I can ask him this at least, right? I can feel Lian trembling in my arms. His breaths come out loud and jagged. Harsh. Star readings. In Fothel village, I met someone who said that she can read the stars. She told me many things about the future. I see. She didn't exactly have any good things to say, though. Just things about eternal loneliness, and everything burnt to a crisp. In fact, most of the words that came out of her mouth were utter nonsense. Lian grabs my shirt with trembling hands. A few deep breaths later, he throws his still trembling arms around me. It will be all right, Alfred. That may just be one possible path. Your future isn't fixed. If you want to change it, you can definitely do it with your own power, says Lian. But he seems to be reassuring himself rather than me. Change it. That's right. Change it. I'm sure it's possible. Like I said, nothing is fixed. Is that so? Yeah. What's with you today? You're not acting like yourself. Why are you worrying about the words of random passerby? Random passerby, huh? Yep. Words from such a person aren't likely to be true. There's also no evidence to verify them. So don't take them to heart. Is that so? That woman's words are certainly vague, containing metaphors I can't understand for my life. Yet Lian said I can change my future. I can change it however I want. With my own power. He's right. Because the woman was so vague with her words, there's no way to determine if they held truth. As Lian has said, it's only one possible future. There are many other paths to choose from. I just have to be careful not to end up with the worst one. I can just change it. Yes, I'm sure anyone can do it. Including me and you. Isn't that right? Faced with these encouragements, I let go of my internal struggles and nod. Right. Such a dull response. Do you really believe me? Yes, I do. Really. Relieved, Lian quietly exhales. Then, he loosens his grip on my shirt. Good. You should be okay now, right? Don't ever forget what I said. He has reverted to his usual cockiness and I vigorously nod in reply. That's right. I will change the future. Even though I don't quite have a plan on how, that I'm aware of my bad future and that I'll get a better idea as time passes are already enough. Enough to keep my future from entering nightmare territory. And the fact that I've come to this conclusion is all because of Lian. So I'm right, aren't I? The little shooting star that strange woman mentioned was you all along. You. The one who drags me to the surface as I'm sinking has always been you. The light brightening my path. What? No, it's nothing. I smile at Lian, who looks back at me with a strange face. Then I proceed to hug him tight. His gentle scent pervades my senses. So calming. Like fresh grass in spring. My favorite scent. I don't want to lose this warmth. I praise her in my heart. If what she said is true, then if he leaves me, I won't have to worry about him burning out. But I beg of you. I will take care of you. Protect you. I will treat you well. So please, stay with me forever. NGH. It hurts, Alfred. Hey, are you deaf? I said it hurts. Your stupid strength pisses me off. As soon as he kicks at my legs, I come to my senses. Only then did I register Lian's flushed and angry face. I'm sorry. Lian slips out of my embrace and backs away once I relax my arms. He's quick to escape as always, just like that silver cat I feed in my spare time. Bolts before I even get close. I made a mistake. I was too absent-minded. I'm finally given consent to touch him, but now he is running away again. If you have that much strength, then I don't need to give you more magic power. He grabs the bag with the charged stones on the desk. Darts for the door in the speed of light. I'll pay you for these 52 pieces tomorrow. Gee, goodbye. Not giving me a chance to reply, Lian leaves the room with flushed cheeks. Listening to his hurried footsteps down the corridor, I heave a sigh. If he allows me to go that far again, we can continue what we did that night and possibly get further. Yeah, right. I've already messed up my chances. That black-haired woman. Because of her catastrophic star readings and incomprehensible words, I got lost in my thoughts. Has Lian realized that I've already assured myself? After all, he has excellent perception. Whatever. Let's just make do with that for today. I will gradually initiate more physical contact with him. Once he gets used to it, he won't run away anymore. Gradually. Because if I spook him, he may run off to his original world. And once he's there, I can't chase after him. My ears pick up his footsteps outside the church. I peer out the window and toward the gate. There, I see Lian. His soft silvery hair sways in the wind, and he skips as if running away. I swear that I definitely won't fail this time.